Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, welcome to the show where we don't sing it, we bring it. Help us out and click subscribe to show your support. People, are you sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling video game every single year? Stop immediately. Go to Wrestler Unstoppable, available exclusively through Facebook. Create a wrestler, sign contracts, get involved in storylines, headline pay-per-views, even build your own corporation, all included in Wrestler Unstoppable, available now to all Facebook users, totally free. It is a turn-based game, very entertaining. I am a die-hard junkie. If you look me up on the game, my name is Odin Maximus on the game. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, you want your name in the shout-outs, check our Patreon page at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast. Sign up today. Don't forget loyalty rewards that we have. If you are a $15 a month contributor, you can host an episode live with me. $7.50 a month contributors, you can get entered into a drawing to co-host a show as well. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. If you've got questions, comments, anything you'd like for us to touch on in the future episode, drop us a line at the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line, 267-642-1160, where we can address anything you'd like us to in a future show. Don't forget, check out our homepage, frowrestling.com. It gives you everything there is to know about the Pro Wrestling Podcast. People, it's been a hot minute. It's been quite a while since we put up an episode. Life is crazy. Life is always moving. And we're just glad to get back to you. Want to jump right into the news today. Everybody is still reacting to WWE Backlash down in Puerto Rico. What an incredible show. Quite frankly, when you're not talking about one of the big four, the WrestleMania, the SummerSlam, the Survivor Series, the Royal Rumble, this was a great show top to bottom. It really, really was. Even matches like Omos and Seth Rollins were still quality matches. Now, the reason I'm bringing it up this far after the fact is the reactions to Savio, Vega, and Carlito coming back to WWE, and I get it. You know, it's probably a one-off. We probably won't see either of them in a WWE ring anytime soon. My understanding is they had to go through a lot of testing to make sure Savio Vega was in good enough shape to be able to do a run-in and get physical and whatnot. But Carlito looked absolutely amazing. Now remember, during the Thunderdome era, he did come back for that short spat where he did a tag team match with Jeff Hardy and whatnot. And I loved all of that. But the reaction that he got, and I get it, you're in his home territory. He gets the big hometown pop. I understand all of that. But let's be honest. If he was in Philadelphia, if he was in Chicago, if he was in, heck, Greensboro, North Carolina, it doesn't matter where you were, Carlito would have had a huge explosion no matter where it took place. I actually loved seeing that Chris Masters posted online a great reaction to the pop he got. The two of them have been very close, linked for a very long time, and I loved seeing his reaction. Everybody loves what they saw from Carlito, and I hope that it leads to something more. He made it clear after the show that he is open to doing something. He's open to almost anything, and it doesn't necessarily have to be with WWE. But I think with the history there, I think it would be very advantageous for the WWE to capitalize on this. And let's be honest, lately they have missed the boat. They really have. Back in January, we talked about some of the free agents that were coming up. We talked about the Jay White. We talked about Nick Aldis. We talked about several talents that potentially could be coming to WWE. Carlito's name never even came up because he's always floating out there and never seems to come back. But this is a situation where now Nick Aldis is back in Impact Wrestling, apparently signing a longer-term contract. As a matter of fact, this week it'll be his first match in almost 6 years since he's wrestled for Impact. And I'm thrilled to see Nick Aldis, by the way, somebody who has done an interview with the Pro Wrestling Podcast. You can check that out on our homepage, frowrestling.com. I'm thrilled to see him back as an active competitor on a weekly program. After leaving the NWA, it was essential for him to get on TV. But I can't help but think that this was a missed opportunity. Now, apparently it is a short-term deal with Impact Wrestling, so he still has a doorway open to possibly go to WWE, and I know Triple H was very much on board with bringing him to WWE prior to WrestleMania season, but then with the whole Endeavor purchase and WWE doing this merger and whatnot, all the hiring was frozen. And they missed out on people like Nick Aldis. They missed out on Jay White, who they also had significant interest in. Tama Tonga over in New Japan right now is wrestling without a contract and is the never openweight champion. Sounds like the same thing that happened a little earlier last year when he saw Carl Anderson as the never openweight champion. WWE could sign him tomorrow, and they haven't. I understand when you're going through a merger and whatnot, but at this point, the merger is a done deal. It's going to happen. Everything's cool. Hire some people. And it's not just about the free agents either. We really got to jump into the whole conversation about Drew McIntyre, because that has become a huge speaking point for the whole industry. You know, we all know they're going through the WWE Championship tournament right now. We'll get to that in a little bit, but one of the names noticeably absent from that tournament is Drew McIntyre. Let's be honest, when COVID hits, Drew McIntyre gets put in the position of being the world champion, WWE champion, at the hardest time possible, and still found a way to make it work. He was great. He was over the match, you know, the appearance of the Royal Rumble and eliminating Brock Lesnar. He just looked incredible. Then beating Brock so definitively at WrestleMania, and everything he did, Randy Orton, all the stuff he did really proved what he could be to WWE. More importantly, heading into this year's WrestleMania, he was working bruised and beaten and battered and really needed some time off to heal up. And somehow they are still far apart on money and creative for his character. Now, I get it. Some people hate, companies hate giving creative control to people. And I get it. It's almost like, you know, they have bad taste in their mouth courtesy of people like, you know, the Outsiders and Hulk Hogan back when the NWO thing was going on. But to some degree, these people do have to worry about what image they're putting out there, and they do have to have some kind of discussion about what their character is doing. I get it. The final call comes down to Triple H or whoever is in charge, because that's highly debatable at this point, whether it's Triple H, Vince, or who. But the reality is Drew has earned the right to be a top-tier talent, and not just a mid-carder fighting for the Intercontinental Championship or fighting in tag team matches with Sheamus, which I enjoyed. I'm not saying I don't love his work, but the guy is putting together a Hall of Fame resume. It is time to get him back into the main event picture, and they have failed miserably at doing that. And now the conversation is about him running out the end of his contract. He'll run out right in early 2024. Perhaps next WrestleMania will be his last one in WWE, unless something can be worked out. And I'm sorry, when you've got billion-dollar deals with foreign nations that are questionable at best, and all the money you're bringing in, and this incredible merger that's, you know, you're now part of a 12, almost $13 billion corporation, you can sign your marquee talent. You can go recruit the people we were talking about earlier to be your new free agents. You can do all of those things, and for whatever reason, WWE has refused to do that, and that is problematic, because WWE needs to keep the product fresh. You all know, and many people have commented on videos I've put up, and everybody else's videos as well, how monotonous it can be when you see the same stuff every single week. And a lot of times WWE TV feels that way. And we really need to move past that and get back to what Triple H was doing really well at the early part of his tenure, which was bringing in appropriate talent that serve a purpose and can be used to really push the company forward. You could do that right now. You could have done that with Jay White. You could have done that with Nick Aldis. You could do that with Carlito. You could do that with a whole list of people, litany of talent that is currently out there. Now, I get it. People talk about, you know, we don't want to have what AEW has, which is an enormous roster and not enough television time for anybody. WWE, if they chose to, could put a television program on every night of the week. They really could with the amount of money they make. They choose not to, because of the workload. And I get it. I'm not crapping on them for what their TV schedule is. But the reality is, put a product out there people want to see. And for a long time it was happening. Recently it's starting to get a little more stale again. And that's a problem. Even the way they book Cody Rhodes. Let's talk about the World Heavyweight title tournament that's going on. Cody Rhodes being taken out by Brock Lesnar on Monday Night Raw makes a lot of sense, because you want to keep Cody away from the World Heavyweight Championship so that he can still be the one to dethrone Roman Reigns. Word is that match is currently penciled in as the main event of next year's WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia, where Cody will finally defeat Roman Reigns and take that championship. Here's the problem. You just drafted the two guys to opposite brands, which means Cody would have to win the Royal Rumble again to be able to switch brands. That's problematic. Then you look at the rest of the tournament. So Cody Rhodes is wrestling. The Miz is in his match. You already know that they are not going to give the Miz their inaugural championship run with this new belt. And then, you know, you have Austin Theory, Seth Rollins, Rey Mysterio, Sheamus, Edge, all these people involved in this tournament. There's only certain guys that you can make an argument for makes sense to get that step, that to be the first guy. I actually would have been okay with Damian Priest getting it. Such positive reviews for him coming out of Backlash and his match with Bad Bunny, who that may be the best celebrity match in the history of wrestling. Logan Paul's done great things, but I think that match was just off the chain. But When you look at who's left, okay, so coming out of Monday night, we have Seth Rollins going against Finn Balor. They're going to determine the Raw side of things, which, why do we do a brand split and then have guys from SmackDown in this tournament to begin with? I have no idea. What are you going to do? Draft them into SmackDown and have them go back to Raw to defend the title? What you really just told everybody is whoever wins Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor, it's going to be Seth Rollins, is going to win. Because they're not going to bounce you to SmackDown just to bounce you back to Raw unless they colossally messed up the draft, which maybe they feel they did. When you look at the SmackDown guys, you've got, Edge, AJ Styles, and Rey Mysterio are going to be in one of the matches. I think coming out of that match, you only have two potential options. It's either going to be Edge or AJ Styles. I don't think there's any way Rey Mysterio gets that push. I really don't. I don't think it makes sense. The only way that would make sense is if for some crazy reason Finn Balor beat Seth Rollins and you had Rey and Finn Balor for the championship. I can't see that being a realistic possibility unless you're giving Balor the title. And he, frankly, has looked horrible in terms of his winnability for months. So I don't see that happening. So coming out of the first match, it's got to be AJ or it's got to be Edge. The word is that AJ Styles is supposed to be the next challenger for Roman Reigns. If that's the case, that tells me Edge comes out of that match. The other match on SmackDown, Bobby Lashley, Austin Theory, and Sheamus. I have no idea how you play this, but here's the way you look at it. First off, I don't think Sheamus gets it because I don't think he's in position enough to be strong enough to be considered that level of a guy for this inaugural opportunity. Austin Theory and Bobby Lashley have been embroiled in fighting and feud for months. It's boring. It's laborious, but one of the two of them, I believe, is going to come out of this match as the winner. Now, you could go with Austin Theory because he's young, he's got a championship already, and do the whole thing with he and Seth Rollins, which to me is boring. And it's not a knock on Theory, it's not a knock on Rollins. That's a match that to me is a mid-card match, an upper mid-card match. Unless you're going to have Theory drop the United States Championship somewhere between now and then and have him focus on the world title and elevate him to world title contender, I don't see Theory being the guy, which leaves you with only one other option, and that would be Lashley. So now if Lashley walks out of the first round of the tournament and faces Edge, what do you do? Knowing that the winner is going to face Seth Rollins, do you put Bobby Lashley over and have Rollins versus Lashley, which quite frankly might be a really good match? Definitely a pay-per-view quality match, but I don't know, since the match is taking place at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia, I don't know that the Saudi Arabian crowd would want to see that as the main event. Or do you make it be Edge, where you almost have the rekindling of the Seth Rollins-Edge feud from a couple years ago, which will have backstory already built in, less money to have to promote it, more excitement immediately because of what they've gone through in previous shows. I actually am leaning that direction. I don't know how you get there without making Bobby Lashley look weak, but somehow my prediction is Edge walks out of SmackDown as the person to go to Saudi Arabia to challenge for the World Championship. Now, what do you do when you get there? Seth Rollins and Edge, I think obviously if you go with Vegas and you go with the odds makers, Seth Rollins is like the overwhelming favorite to win the championship. And I'm okay with that. I really am. He hasn't had a championship in 5-6 years, whatever it is. So fine, give it to him. But what if? What if they gave the championship to Edge? The guy never lost the World Heavyweight Championship. That was the championship he had when he retired all those years ago. To give him the championship back that he never lost, I think would be an incredible statement. It would move him back to the red brand, where I don't know what you do in terms of all the baby faces you have there. That's one of the other problems coming out of the draft. I feel like there's too many baby faces on Raw, but it would be interesting. I still think it's going to be Seth Rollins that walks out as a champion, but we'll have to wait and see. I just think they should have focused that energy on building some new stars on Raw rather than bringing in the SmackDown crew, who's supposed to be establishing themselves as the new faces of this new brand split. Got to throw a couple things out there in terms of AEW. The big announcement is coming on next week's episode of Dynamite. The speculation is that the announcement is going to be related to their new television rights deal with Warner Brothers Discovery. The reality is there's rumors out there, there's memes online that it's like a 5-year billion-dollar deal. I don't know what it's going to be, but I hope whatever it is, it's good for the wrestling world, not just AEW, but for everybody, to give a real solid financial backing to the company so that they stay, no matter how poorly Tony Khan messes things up. And I'm not trying to crap on Tony Khan, but his booking lately has been atrocious. Even stuff like the Don Callis turn on Dynamite this week. You could have seen that coming from 1,000 miles away. It's too predictable. It's too repetitive. We need something new and exciting, and something is really going to get people invested. Speaking of, the sources close to CM Punk, according to a report that is out by Fightful Select, is that Punk has indicated he wants to have a program when he returns with Samoa Joe, that could be the kickoff of his return to the company and pushing the new AEW Collision show that he is supposed to be in some way captaining. The early report was it was going to be he and Chris Jericho. It sounds like that is no longer the plan, that it's going to be something different. And I'm okay with that. I really am. I think that CM Punk, look, I personally, I would not want him back in my company. But if you're going to bring him back anyways, more power to you. Just do what you need to do to really draw people in. And Punk versus Joe back in Ring of Honor was the bomb. It was an incredible match. You could go look them up on YouTube. Doing it again now, all these years later, and they could still go in the ring, both of them, might really be what they need to do to kick off that program in just the right way. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next episode. We run down the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks as always out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com, who produce all the music and sound effects that we use in our show. Today's show sponsored by Beazle Games. Bring a new friend to family game night. It's easy. Grab a copy of Sketchy People. You get to showcase your artistic side in this game by Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the screen to pick up your copy today. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college, university life, or you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our sister website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs, as Fro Life educational planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Dr. Fro. I want to thank you for taking a few moments with us today. And until next time, everybody, please take care, be safe, and enjoy some of that wrestling. And by the way, support indie wrestling. June 3rd, Worldwide Wrestling Alliance. I return to the ring for my next match. Slim Whiskey, I'm coming for you. And this time, I'm not coming alone. I'm bringing somebody with me. I will see you in Norristown for Norristown Throwdown 2. I'll see you June 3rd, Slim.